chosen one. That not every message is meant to uplift you. Not every door is meant to be opened. Some messages are coded with sweetness but sealed with venom. Some voices wear your language like a mask. What you thought was a green light might just be a glowing snare. In this season, the deception isn't obvious. It's dressed in the familiar, in the kind, in the soft tone that mimics your own. You must understand this. They have studied your patterns, your longings, your moments of silence, and now they're using the very sound of comfort to pull you toward the edge. Not all attacks look like violence. Some begin with a whisper that feels like love. You are not watching this video by accident. This moment is a spiritual checkpoint. You're being called to sharpen your discernment like never before. So stay with me till the very end of this message. Listen closely to the signs that are hidden in plain sight. If you feel the tug of truth here, drop your warmest wish in the comments and seal it with 777. This is how we energize the shift, amplify the light, and declare together that we will not fall for sweetened traps in this divine season. The universe is listening, and your clarity begins now. You see, the most dangerous traps are the ones that echo what you most want to hear. They don't come with red flags, they come with confirmation, a compliment, a word that fits your current doubt like a key in a lock. And just like that, you let your guard down. That's the plan, that's the tactic. Not to overpower you with force, but to gently lower your shield through language that feels familiar. This is not a war of weapons anymore, it's a war of words. Some of you have been wondering why your spirit twitches after certain conversations, why you feel uneasy after reading certain messages, even if they look harmless. It's because your soul knows. It's warning you in silence. Chosen one, you were made to read between lines, to see beyond what is presented, to catch the flicker in the eyes that pretend. And now, your gift is being called forward. Sharpen it, use it. Because there are traps ahead, wrapped in text, typed in emojis, and soaked in just enough light to fool the untrained eye. There are messages that were never meant to reach you, but they did. And that's not always a blessing. Some of them were designed to pull you back into cycles you've already escaped. Old patterns wearing new language. Old spirits speaking through new names. They know your weaknesses because you once confided them. And now they mirror your strength back to you, not to honor it, but to gain entry again. Be careful with flattery. Be careful with resonance. Sometimes what resonates is just a loop disguised as alignment. They want access, chosen one, not to love you, but to study you. They speak in riddles not because they're wise, but because they're hiding intentions. Their compliments are not rooted in celebration, but in disarmament. The more you believe they see you, the easier it is to get close. But here's your divine shield. They can't mimic your frequency forever. Eventually the mask shakes, the language slips, the rhythm breaks, and when it does, you'll know. Because your spirit doesn't lie. Your body knows before your mind does. Pay attention to the tension in your chest when you receive certain messages, the subtle shift in your breath. That's not anxiety, that's revelation, a signal that what you're reading is not neutral, it's spiritual. It's engineered to disturb your field. Don't ignore it. Messages carry energy, and some are portals dressed as poetry. In this season, you must become fluent in spiritual decoding. What are they really saying beneath the words? What frequency is this message vibrating on? Is it urging you to trust, or to rush, to open, or to collapse? Words are spells, and the most effective spells don't sound like spells. They sound like encouragement, concern, or opportunity. You've been conditioned to respond to certain phrases, and the wrong ones know this. Be mindful of patterns. Some messages repeat with new faces, different senders, same intention. They check on you right when you're vulnerable. They admire you just when your light is fragile. They resonate with your spirit just when you've begun to question your path. How is it always so timed? Because the traps don't just appear, they're deployed. And the ones deploying them, they study your timeline more than you do. You're not paranoid. You're being prepared. You're not overthinking. You're decoding. This is spiritual self-defense. This is clarity sharpening into power. They hoped you'd never see the link between your instability and their kind words. But you're seeing it now, aren't you? The spiral you entered after the message. The confusion you felt after the compliment. You woke up fine, but one message later, you're doubting your purpose again. That's not coincidence, that's design. They used your softness as a gateway, your openness as an entry, but that's over now. You're locking what once was left open, not because you're bitter, but because you're wise. Not because you're hiding, but because you're guarding. This is not you becoming cold, this is you becoming careful. There is a difference. Chosen one, some messages are bait. They come as healing but drag you back into wounds. They sound like truth but twist your perception. And worst of all, they make you feel like the one who's overreacting. That's part of the spell. Doubt yourself, and the trap tightens. Trust yourself, and the illusion shatters. What you believe, they either binds you or frees you. This is your moment of choice. The next time a message feels off, pause. Don't rush to reply. Don't try to explain the discomfort away. Sit with it. Let your intuition speak first, not your loneliness, not your nostalgia, not your hope, but your knowing. You don't owe everyone access to your energy, and just because a message found you doesn't mean it deserves to stay with you. You're being watched more than you know, and not all watchers clap when you rise. Some wait for your guard to drop. Others pose as friends just to see how close they can get. They say peace and love, but move with intent to destabilize. They want to see what happens if they can throw you off without even touching you. A word can do that, a well-placed sentence, a strategic emoji. It sounds dramatic, but this is reality now. Emotional warfare lives in the DNs. You've been targeted because you're tuned in, because you carry light, because you've already broken the loops they still serve. So now they study your speech to replicate it. They mirror your soul to gain your trust. But you must not lower your defenses for a reflection. If it's real, it won't feel forced. If it's divine, it won't confuse. Confusion is the first sign of a trap. Truth may challenge, but it never manipulates. You are protected when you move. Move with awareness. And awareness begins when you stop reading with your eyes and start feeling with your soul. This is your filter now. Does this message expand me or extract from me? Does this comment energize me or destabilize me? If it leaves you anxious, spinning, or second-guessing, it's not alignment, it's interference. Your spirit has been quietly alerting you to this for weeks. That one person who always shows up just when you're about to level up, that message that always makes you second-guess your own power, that sudden flattery, followed by a strange sense of emotional static. They're not accidents, they're traps, wrapped in good grammar and light language, but you're not who you used to be. Your discernment has upgraded, your spiritual armor is tighter. You don't fall for tone anymore, you look for intention. You don't react to words, you study their weight, and that makes you dangerous to the ones who relied on your softness to gain access. Chosen one, you are being recalibrated, not to fear people, but to filter energy. Not to close your heart, but to train it. Your love is still your power, but now it's also your boundary. And your silence, that's no longer submission, that's your strategy. There was a time when you responded out of instinct, not insight. A time when any message that echoed kindness was welcomed without hesitation. You gave the benefit of the doubt because that's who you were, open, generous, eager to believe in connection. But patterns have taught you what people refuse to say. You started noticing how these sweet-sounding messages always arrived when you were on the verge of change, just as you were crossing a threshold. That's not coincidence, that's timing with intent. They don't always mean harm with their words, but their presence isn't always neutral either. Some messages are sent from unhealed souls that carry weight you didn't consent to carry. Some are projections wrapped in flattery, others are silent competitions veiled as praise. And if you're not grounded, you begin to absorb those energies as your own. You begin to question your light because someone else spoke from their shadow. You felt it before, that strange heaviness after a seemingly innocent conversation. That spiral of doubt after reading a text that, on the surface, said all the right things. The words weren't violent, but something underneath them clawed at your peace. That's how you know it wasn't just a message, it was a spiritual delivery carrying emotional residue. And the worst part, they didn't even have to lie. All they had to do was plant a seed of distortion and step back. It only takes one message to make you question a revelation. One sentence to pull you back into survival mode. And those who understand the power of language, they use it not to build, but to bend you, not to support, but to subtly undo you. It's in the phrasing, the pacing, the pause between words. It's in the calculated casualness. They know how to say just enough to stir your waters, but not enough to reveal their hand. You're dealing with people who've learnt how to cloak their intentions in spiritual language. They reference healing, alignment, vibration, but what they really want is influence. They speak of connection, but they seek control. And they're good at it because they've watched how people respond to softness. They've learned how to mimic depth with borrowed phrases, but it's empty. There's no embodiment behind their words, only mimicry. And you feel it now. You sense the dissonance. What used to fool you now makes you pause. You no longer override your intuition just because something is nice. You don't interpret vague words as profound truths. You ask, what do they want? Why now? What changed? You question the timing. You analyze the patterns. Because your safety no longer lies in trusting everyone. It lies in trusting your discernment. You've begun to spot the emotional engineers. The ones who write with just enough warmth to pull you in but leave out the weight of true transparency. They want connection without accountability, access without earning it. They play with your empathy like it's a doorway. And for a while it worked, but not anymore. Now, you pay attention to the aftertaste. How do you feel after reading their words? Light, anchored, or confused, anxious, drained? Because that's the real message, not the text itself, but its effect. Real alignment leaves you with peace, not questions. With clarity, not confusion. If you feel like you have to decode every sentence to find the truth, it's already a signal. Truth doesn't play hide and seek. There are also those who come dressed in admiration, but it's only a prelude to intrusion. They'll praise your spirit, your work, your energy. But soon it shifts, a question here. A request there, a subtle emotional test. They want to see how pliable you are, how quickly you respond, if your boundaries are consistent. And when they realize you're no longer easily moved, they either disappear or escalate. This isn't about fear. It's about precision. It's about moving with such clarity that no one gets to play with your frequency unnoticed. Your energy is sacred real estate, and messages, they're visitors. Some come with gifts, others come with hidden contracts. You must decide who gets to stay, who gets to speak, who gets to be felt. Silence now is not avoidance, it's discernment in action. What's remarkable is how subtle the traps have become. They don't arrive with chaos, they arrive during your stillness. They knock on the door just when you've finally found peace. They come with the tone of understanding, referencing your growth, your evolution. But you didn't give them those updates, so how do they know? They've been watching, studying, waiting, and now they think they know how to speak your language, but speaking like you and being like you are different realms. Their vocabulary may match, but their vibration doesn't. And your body picks up on it faster than your mind can explain it. The tightening in your stomach, the sudden mood shift, the inexplicable fatigue. These are spiritual alerts, signals that what you're engaging with isn't just content, it's a carrier, a vessel. And some vessels were never cleansed. Some messages are echoes of unresolved pain, looking for a new place to land. You must stop volunteering to be that place. You don't have to explain your silence. You don't have to respond just because something was sent to you. Not everything that reaches you deserves a reaction. And not everyone who writes like they know your soul has earned the right to speak to your spirit. The language of light has been commercialized. The words you once reserved for sacredness are now currency in a game of manipulation. But here's the truth. You're learning to see again, not with your eyes, but with your knowing. You're starting to recognize the difference between resonance and recruitment, between authentic connection and emotional colonization. You're no longer afraid of being misunderstood. You're committed to being protected. And that requires silence, boundaries, and the courage to walk away from messages that smell like sweetness but carry venom. They won't like it. The ones who relied on your old patterns, the ones who once had easy access to your attention, they'll call it ego, arrogance, isolation. But you know what it really is? It's spiritual maturity. You're not choosing separation, you're choosing calibration. You're not being cold, you're being precise. And precision saves lives. Precision keeps you from stepping into loops you've already broken. Precision protects the assignment that still waits for you beyond the noise. They can keep sending. They can keep typing, but you no longer open every door. You no longer feed every frequency. You're not unkind, you're not unreachable, you're just aligned. And in alignment, not all messages make it through. What they underestimate is your memory, not just of facts, but of patterns. You remember how you felt after certain messages, how your clarity seemed to dissolve, how you doubted yourself more than usual after interacting with particular people. You remember the subtle shift in your energy, the strange fog that lingered, the way you began spiraling from a sentence that on the surface seemed harmless. You didn't always have the words for it, but you knew something was off. You felt it in the tremble of your inner peace. That tremble was truth whispering, this isn't safe. Over time, you began connecting dots others ignore. You saw how the same tone kept returning in different disguises, different names, different profiles, same strategy. They complement just enough to be invited in, but never enough to empower. They ask just enough to feel intimate, but never enough to build. Their words are designed not to nourish, but to tether. Emotional tethers are the new weapons, and they rely on your empathy to stay tied. That's why the messages feel like they matter. They know you're a feeler. They know you care deeply, so they script their words like spells, expecting you to open your doors. But you've changed. You've upgraded your filters. You no longer let everyone into your sacred space, no matter how eloquent they sound. Not because you're shutting down, but because you've learned that energy is the true currency. And not everyone deserves to spend theirs on you. What they send is not always obvious. Sometimes it's a voice note soaked in nostalgia. Sometimes it's a vague quote they thought of you while reading. Other times it's a link or meme or song, seemingly random but spiritually targeted. It's bait. A frequency test. A reach disguised as inspiration. And if you reply even politely, they feel they've re-entered. That one response becomes the thread they pull to unravel the stillness you've worked so hard to build. This isn't about being rude. It's about being real. You're not obligated to play along with digital rituals that rob you of your peace. Just because someone presses send doesn't mean you have to receive. Let it bounce. Let it return to them unanswered. You owe no reaction to a message designed to weaken your alignment. Your silence is not passive, it's sacred protection. Even well-meaning people can become conduits for confusion. Not everyone sending you light is free from their own darkness. Some carry wounds that spill through their words. Others unknowingly echo energies that aren't theirs. That's why you don't just check the message, you check the impact. What does it do to you? Does it open you to hope or pull you into overthinking? Does it inspire action or spark anxiety? The effect is the revelation, and yes, there will be guilt. You'll feel the tug to respond, the urge to comfort, to explain. But you've done that before. You've played the role of emotional buffer. You've softened your clarity to ease their discomfort, not anymore. This version of you honors what your spirit says first. Before the filter, before the logic, before the guilt, you trust that the yes you give to your peace is worth 1,000 no's to anything else. They never expected you to evolve like this, to move without announcing, to protect without performing. You're not sending warnings, you're simply withdrawing access. And in a world where attention is currency, your silence is loud. It speaks in ways words never could. It says, I've seen this loop before, I've heard this tone before. I know where this road leads, and I choose another. And yes, some will accuse you of being cold, of cutting people off, but they didn't feel what you felt. They didn't sit in the aftermath of those messages. They didn't carry the confusion, the energy drain, the mental fog. You did. And now that you've cleared it, you have every right to guard what cost you your clarity to recover. They don't get to define your response to toxicity just because it came with a smile. Just because it was wrapped in friendliness doesn't mean it wasn't harmful. Spiritual traps don't always shout. Some whisper with a kindness so deceptive it takes everything in you not to believe it's truth. But truth doesn't destabilize. Truth roots. Truth grounds. What ungrounds you is not truth, it's a spell. And it's always in the details. The way they word things, the way they imply rather than state. The way they shift blame onto your sensitivity when you finally speak up. Gaslighting isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a gentle, calculated response. I didn't mean it like that. You're reading into it. I was just trying to help. But your body knows what your mind can't always articulate, and you've learned to listen to that knowing. You're not bitter. You're refined, not paranoid, but spiritually awake. You're not seeing ghosts, you're identifying patterns. And because of that, they can no longer manipulate you with charm. They can no longer slide past your boundaries with emotionally coded words. What used to pull you in now makes you pause, and what used to confuse you now confirms your intuition. You don't need to over-explain your boundaries to those who honor them. The ones who truly carry light won't guilt you for being protective of yours. They'll respect the space. They won't need constant reassurance or access. They'll flow in alignment, not in pressure. And their messages? They won't just sound right, they'll feel right. That's the difference. The more you evolve, the more subtle the tests become. The more refined the traps. But so too does your discernment deepen. You're learning not just to trust your intuition, but to honor it without delay. To move on the first alert, not the fifth. To exit before it escalates. That's growth, that's mastery, that's freedom. You've outgrown responding just because it's expected. You've outgrown validating energies that drain you. You've outgrown entertaining anything that speaks with light but walks with shadow. And in doing so, you've reclaimed the most powerful truth of all. You decide what enters your space. You choose what energy lives in your world. You are no longer a passive receiver. You are a conscious gatekeeper. Let the world send what it will. You are no longer easy to reach. There will always be voices trying to pull you back, sometimes through messages, sometimes through memories, sometimes through mouths that once spoke love but now echo distortion. They don't always realize what they're doing. Some are aware, some are just channels. But the effect is the same: interference, a gentle tug away from your center, a slow unraveling of your peace. And if you're not careful, if you're not vigilant, you'll find yourself explaining your light to people who have already decided to misunderstand it. But you're done with that. You've seen what happens when you explain too much, how it drains you, how it invites negotiation over boundaries that were never up for debate. You've watched how clarity gets blurred when you open the door too wide for voices that only seek to echo their own confusion inside your temple. That temple is sacred now. It's quiet, it's guarded, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Every message you ignore is not rejection, it's redirection. Every silence you choose is not avoidance, it's alignment. You've learnt to feel the vibration behind the words. You've learnt that checking in can sometimes mean checking for weakness. That sudden interest isn't always rooted in care. That kindness can be strategic. And now that you've seen behind the veil, you can't unsee it. You walk different now. You guard different. There's power in becoming unreadable to those who only reached out when they sensed you were vulnerable. There's peace in no longer performing clarity for people who thrive in your chaos. They wanted you accessible, predictable, responsive. But that version of you is gone, not because of bitterness, but because of boundaries. You realize the cost of being too open in a world that weaponizes softness. So you shifted, and now your presence is no longer automatic, it's intentional. Your replies are no longer instant, they're earned. You don't feel guilt for that, you feel grounded, you feel safe, you feel whole. Because every time you protect your peace, you anchor yourself deeper into purpose. What you once thought was overreaction, you now see was revelation. What you once called insecurity, you now recognize as instinct. All along your spirit knew. All along your intuition whispered. And now you don't wait for proof. Now you honor the first signal. Now you act on the subtle. That's how you stay free. Let them wonder why you stopped responding. Let them question your silence. You don't owe an explanation to energy you've outgrown. If they truly carried light, they'd understand your absence. If their message was divine, it would leave you in peace, not pieces. Let the unaligned call it ego. It's not. It's evolution. You've come too far to let words dressed in light drag you back into confusion. You've climbed too high to reach down for what once pulled you under. The frequency you now walk in demands protection. It demands silence, it demands solitude, and above all, it demands truth, not scripted truth, not polished phrases, but embodied, consistent, anchored truth. So let the messages come, let them try, you'll feel them before you even read them. You'll know the frequency before you decode the meaning, and most of the time, you won't even need to open it, because real protection isn't about fighting what reaches you. It's about being so in tune that it never enters at all. This is where you are now, unshaken, unreachable by manipulation, unavailable to anything that doesn't honor your frequency. And it's not loneliness, it's power. The kind of power they can't imitate, the kind of power that doesn't respond to bait, the kind of power that doesn't need to prove itself. You're not cold, you're clear. You're not distant, you're divine, and from this moment forward, your silence will speak louder than any message ever could. You've become the message now, not through words, but through presence. The energy you radiate is louder than any reply. You no longer explain your boundaries, you embody them. And those who are meant to align will never need to decode you. They'll feel you, understand you, and honor the silence you protect. This isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning of a new chapter where peace is your standard, not your reward. Where presence is earned, not assumed. From now on, every word you allow near you must be clean, clear, and aligned. You are no longer decoding mixed signals, you are demanding truth with no disguise. Let them adjust or let them go.